Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our community presentation for the Jumpstart Inclusive Multisport Court to learn more about this exciting project. Thanks in part to the generosity of Greater Victoria Canadian Tire dealers, Canadian Tire Jumpstart Charities is proud to gift the Peninsula Recreation Commission with a Jumpstart Multisport Court to bring sport and play to kids of all abilities. My name is Jennifer Fraser. I'll be your moderator tonight for the Q&A and also just kick things off. I'm with Jumpstart Charities. I'm going to quickly go through the agenda this evening for you. We are going to first kick it off with Lorraine Brewster. She's the Senior Manager of Panorama Recreation. Then we'll speak with Ted Daly. He will give us a quick overview of the importance to the community, and he's with the Peninsula Recreation Commission. Then we'll get an overview from Matt Curtis, Manager of Facilities and Operations from the Panorama Recreation Center on the scope of the project. And then we'll hear from Marco DiBuono, our AVP of Operations and Programs at Jumpstart, who will give you a multi-sport court design and inclusive features presentation. Shortly after that, I will kick off the Q&A and facilitate that for you. Other members to mention from the Panorama team that'll be part of this presentation assisting with any questions will be Melanie Alsdorf, the Manager of Program Services from the Panorama Recreation Center, and Lisa Sneak, the Marketing Coordinator from the Panorama Recreation Center. So just to give you a quick overview of how you can submit your questions. So you can submit your questions throughout the presentation using the chat function on the side, on the right-hand side of your display. You may submit anonymously by checking the box underneath the question field you're typing in. Any media questions we'll hold until the end. And please, if you're a reporter, please provide your name and your media outlet in combo with your questions so that we can assist you. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Lorraine Brewster to kick this exciting evening off for us.
Thank you, Jennifer. Well, good evening, and thank you for attending the virtual community presentation. I wanted to start off by just kind of mentioning that I had my first conversation with Marco about the Jumpstart Inclusive Multi-Sport Court. It was a telephone conversation, we connected, and he told me that Jumpstart Charities would like to gift the Peninsula Recreation Commission to build an inclusive multi-sport court at Panorama. As I was listening, my inner voice went, wow. And when Marco spoke to me about the vision and about the details of the outdoor facility, he had so much passion about what this facility would do for the community. And it did not take me very long to align my passion with his. This multi-court, the decision to partner was made by the Peninsula Recreation Commission in March to proceed with this 13,200 square foot multi-court located right here at Panorama Recreation Center. The multi-court is designed for a variety of sports and will allow accessible programming for all ages. We are very, very excited about this partnership with Canadian Tire Jumpstart Charities and the many, many benefits for our community. To sort of summarize this partnership, I really like this quote from Helen Keller, and it goes, "Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much." This partnership with Panorama will be an incredible enhancement for the community and the Capital Regional District in providing inclusive sport and play for all ages. I would like to now turn the presentation to the Chair of the Peninsula Recreation Commission, Ted Daly.
Thank you, Lorraine. And in this time of COVID, we're playing a bit of musical chairs here, so this isn't your usual performance. I'd like to start by thanking Jennifer and Marco and the Canadian Tire Jumpstart charities for hosting this community information session. It's very important to get this tremendous news out to the community that the Recreation Commission serves. So thanks for that. And I'd also like to pick up a little bit on what Lorraine just said, passion. Passion is what the commission members and the staff here at Panorama are all about. I see that. I'm up here every day. I see that day in and day out. I've been on the commission for many, many years, and this is just a tremendously exciting place to be attached to volunteer for, and I see passion every day of the staff here. On behalf of the entire Recreation Commission, I'd like to thank the Greater Victoria Canadian Tire Dealers and the Canadian Tire Jumpstart charities for this incredibly generous and exciting gift. The Recreation Commission and all the Panorama staff are very excited about this new addition to our facilities. We're especially honored. We understand that we were sought out for this opportunity because Canadian Tire Jumpstart charities were looking for an opportunity out here for an all-inclusive multi-sport court. And we understand that we were sought out because of our track record of being leaders among recreation facilities in making indoor and outdoor recreation accessible for children, youth, and adults of all abilities. So we're excited that they sought us out for this opportunity. So we're incredibly grateful for that. Just to give a little bit of that background, in 2007, just outside the window from where I'm sitting, an amazing, inclusive, and accessible playground was built, which will sit next to the multi-sport court and just build tremendous synergies between the two. This playground gets incredible usage, and it too was built with much community love and support. And even commission and staff members at that time were out there fastening nuts and bolts and putting it together. In 2009, we built an aquatic center here. One of the main features is a water slide. But what makes that tremendously exciting is that attached to the water slide is an elevator that made this water slide accessible by individuals of all abilities. So we're tremendously proud about that. Following an accessibility review by the Rick Hansen Foundation, we received a grant which enabled us over the years to modify our arena entrances and a number of our washroom facilities to make them more accessible. And then more recently, we've installed hearing loops in our main reception area and in our fitness studios so that people with hearing disabilities can feel comfortable here at Panorama while they're working out and recreating. So these are just a few of the many initiatives that Panorama have taken over the years towards our commitment to making programs accessible and inclusive for all. And we are tremendously excited to see the shovels in the ground for this new project. So once again, I'd like to thank the Greater Victoria Canadian Tire Dealers and the Canadian Tire Jumpstart charities for this very exciting opportunity. Thank you very much.
Hi everybody, my name is Matt Curtis. I'm the Facilities and Operations Manager out at Panorama Recreation. I just wanted to start by pointing out how important the site location was to everybody involved in the planning of this project. As Commissioner Daly mentioned, we have a fantastic accessible playground right now on site, as well as an accessible water slide in our pool facility. We wanted the inclusive multi-sport court to be positioned so it would align and provide barrier-free access to and from the playground while still maintaining accessibility to the pool facility and washroom facilities in the rec center. We established fairly early in the planning process that in order to make this happen, we need to reposition the playground approximately 20 meters northwest on site from where its current location is. The location of the court and the playground can be seen on the satellite rendering image. I do want to point out that since this rendering was put together, we've decided on making a small change to the court layout and plan to invert where the pickleball and badminton court are with the sensory play area to kind of allow the kids to have a little bit better access to and from the sensory play area to our existing playground. Panorama's role in this will be responsible for the groundwork required for the sport court, as well as the repositioning of the playground. So that work is going to include the temporary removal of the existing playground structure, removing existing outdoor furniture, pathways, and the small basketball court that exists on site now. We'll continue with site excavation, adding structural backfill materials. We'll be installing drainage for both the sport court site as well as the Panorama Playground site, and connecting that into North Sandwich's storm drain system. We'll be required to supply power to the court for the operation of the court's LED lights. We will be laying the 140 by 120 foot asphalt base surface for the sport court. We will be installing curbing, concrete curbing around the playground surfacing perimeter, reinstalling the playground, installing the playground surfacing, as well as installing any required paved pathways to optimize accessibility, and then finally with reinstalling the outdoor furniture. Our timelines on this project right now, we're currently in the design drawing stage, and we are planning on going out for tender hopefully by late in May. And if all goes well, we should be looking at turning the site back over to Jumpstart for the sport court sometime mid to late August. I just wanted to finish up by thanking Canadian Tire Jumpstart Charities. I mean, we're all very excited to partner with them on this project and bring another exciting public facility to the community in the Victoria Peninsula.
Thank you all. Thank you for the wonderful introductions. As you heard earlier, my name is Marco De Bono. I'm the Associate Vice President of Programs Operations from Canadian Tire Jumpstart Charities, and it is my distinct pleasure to represent not only our staff at the charity, but a small army of about that. So again, want to thank our staff who are also extremely helpful from Canadian Tire Corporation in terms of the support that they provide to help us get these initiatives up and running off the ground. On the next slide, you'll see a little bit of background. I want to spend a little bit of time just giving you a sense of what has driven Jumpstart to consider the importance of inclusive play, and particularly the importance of inclusive infrastructure to enable inclusive play. As many of you may know, Jumpstart has, for the past 15 years, had a singular focus on helping kids throughout Canada overcome the financial barriers to participation in sport and play. And as you'll see on the next slide, we do that through a multitude of partners across the country. We call this our partner ecosystem. They are grassroots organizations, national sport organizations, the various levels of government, municipal partners, youth serving organizations, all of whom enable us to reach kids literally in every corner of the country. On a typical year, we would normally have about 2,000 organizations that we work with, either supporting them directly financially or working with them to get kids involved in sport, physical activity, and recreation programming. And thanks to them, you'll see on the next slide that over our 15-year history, we've been able to reach well over 2.5 million kids now. And we've been able to invest in excess of $200 million in communities across the country to help kids participate in whatever sport they choose. We don't tell the kids what they can do, they tell us what they want to do, and we listen. And we're very proud of that fact. We've also extended our reach to help build capacity in communities by training youth activity leaders and coaches around gender equity and around inclusion and accessibility, and we are continuing with those efforts. But one of the interesting things that happened in 2017, and you'll see on the next slide, is that some of our partners, notably the Rick Hansen Foundation, who you heard mentioned earlier, the Canadian Paralympic Committee, the Ability Center here in Southwestern Ontario, and a number of other youth serving organizations that work with youth and children with disabilities, they reached out to us and said, there's a real gap here in terms of helping kids with disabilities overcome the barriers to participation. And they asked us to consider a significant investment over time to help decrease those barriers. And thankfully, in 2017, Canadian Tire Corporation made a $40 million commitment to programming that would be enabled through the charity to help those barriers effectively disappear. And what you'll see on the next slide is the framework that we put in place in partnership with a number of those partners you saw earlier to really address the known barriers to participation in an evidence-based, community-driven way. This was very much a for us, by us initiative that allowed us to work in partnership, in true partnership, with the experts in the field who'd been doing this work for years and years and years. So the three pillars of our inclusive play project include a significant investment in infrastructure, which started with playgrounds and has expanded to other recreational assets, which we're going to share with you this evening. It included capacity building resources for coaches and youth activity leaders so that no matter where a child is from, they can walk into a facility and be welcomed and greeted with open arms to be able to participate freely, regardless of their ability. And it included a significant $1 million per year investment in parasport and adapted sport programming to complement the work we were doing, granting to community organizations across the country. On the next slide, what you'll see is, wait for it to come up so that, what you'll see is what we've achieved so far with respect to our infrastructure investments. Since 2017, and this includes the projects we have slated for this fiscal year, this calendar year, we will have completed the build for over 338,000 square feet of inclusive play spaces across Canada in virtually every province and almost every territory. We have plans for the North as well. But we don't stop with the infrastructure because, as Lorraine mentioned, this is about a vision. This is about using the infrastructure as an advocacy tool to create truly inclusive environments for participants of all abilities. And we work in partnership with our municipal partners to ensure that there's intentional usage on these beautiful assets once they're completed. And as a result of that partnership work, we've been able to create almost 20,000 incremental hours of accessible and parasport activity on these assets across Canada since 2017, and that number will continue to grow. On the next slide, what you will see is not just a beautiful picture of kids interacting with one of our Paralympic athletes on one of our Jumpstart playgrounds, but you see the extent to which we invest in research and evaluation to help inform continuous improvement on these recreational assets that we're building. We have a partnership with the University of Toronto's Faculty of Kinesiology and Physical Education. We also have a research relationship with the Canadian Disabilities Participation Project, chaired by Dr. Kathleen Martin-Guinness at UBC Okanagan. The purpose of those research investments is to make sure that we are listening to parents, listening to children, taking into consideration their experience on these assets so that we can continuously improve our delivery to create an immersive, inclusive environment on all of our play spaces. On the next slide, what you will see is the Jumpstart Inclusive Multisport Court that we are working in partnership with the Panorama Recreation Center to bring to people throughout the Greater Victoria area and North Saanich. These courts, much like all of our other assets, were designed with extensive consultation with a number of our para and accessible partner organizations. Everything from the color scheme, which allows individuals with low vision or visual impairment to distinguish between the materials they're using to enjoy their participation and the court surfaces, to the adjustable netting on all of the different court surfaces, to the shade structure running down the middle, the seating, which is accessible, the sensory play area, the fencing, the lighting, the bleachers, which are also accessible in nature. Every feature was designed, including with the help of para athletes, to ensure a fully inclusive experience, because we do not want to ostracize participants who may have a disability. We want to make sure that people of all abilities, including people from multi-generational backgrounds, are able to participate together in spaces like this. On the next slide, you'll see another image from another angle of the multi-sport court. Really what we want to convey here is that there's multiple uses for this space. Obviously, you can see the application for basketball with the adjustable netting. that allows for wheelchair basketball as well as traditional basketball. That court can also be used for tennis with an adjustable net for adapted tennis as well. Ball hockey can be played on that court. You can divide it into two to create 2 pickleball courts. And on the other side, you have a mixed pickleball and volleyball court with an adjustable net in the middle as well, and the sensory play area. You have a better view here of that accessible seating under the shade structure and of the bleacher area, which also has a shade structure to provide a little bit of respite from the sun and heat for people of all abilities as they're enjoying watching their loved ones or their friends and colleagues participate on the court. On the next slide, what you will see is, again, the other angle for the pickleball and volleyball court. Here too, the adjustable netting with a simple lock key mechanism that staff can either use or they can make available to people who are booking the site if that's an option that staff want to pursue, to allow for sitting volleyball, for pickleball, for traditional volleyball. It's got all kinds of amazing uses. And you'll see that there's an opportunity for small-sided or free play basketball with the additional nets that are affixed to the fencing on the pickleball court side. These courts also have LED lampposts to allow for participation into the evening hours or into the later hours of the afternoon as we head into the colder months of the year. Thankfully, we're heading into the warmer months of the year, although we're supposed to get snow in Toronto overnight. So if we have frowns on our faces later, you'll know why, because it's probably started snowing. But that's another feature that will help improve usage of these facilities throughout the year. On the next slide, what you will see is just exactly what we're trying to accomplish with this project, is to see kids of all abilities interacting with each other on these spaces. I think the best quote that we can reference was one made by our Paralympic athlete ambassador, Stephanie Dixon, who joined us at the opening of one of our inclusive playgrounds in Surrey, British Columbia, 2 years ago, pre-pandemic. And there was a bustle of kids playing behind her. And of course, a lot of adults and representatives from the city and donors and staff from the charity and staff from the corporation. And Steph made the point that it was a big deal to us to see all these kids of all abilities playing with one another. But to them, it was normal to be playing with one another. And that's exactly what we want to accomplish. This is about inclusion. And we're very proud to not only work with our multitude of partners to design these spaces so that they really meet that expectation, but to have a long-term vision of working with Lorraine and her team to ensure that we are providing innovative programming on this space once it's complete. So with that, I will turn it back to Jen, who will facilitate a Q&A session for anyone who is in attendance who'd like to ask questions about this initiative.
Okay, thanks, Marco. So I will give it another moment. Please submit any questions that you may have for our presenters now. We haven't received any, so I just want to give everyone the opportunity, so please feel free. Give you a moment to think of any. Very well presentation, so I understand if you don't have any questions. The team did a great job. And okay. Well, on that note, I think I'll pass it over to Marco to conclude this evening.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Jennifer. And of course, we know this is a lot of amazing information to take in. The staff at Panorama, the staff at Jumpstart are happy to entertain any questions you may have after you've had an opportunity to absorb this information. Think about your personal experience that you might want to enjoy on the site. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. I think there was some contact information on the notice for this evening's meeting. We're grateful for the support that we've received from Lorraine and her team and from the commission. to enable us to make this contribution to the community. We look forward to building this, and once it's done, we look forward to celebrating with the community safely and hopefully in a post-COVID era to welcome individuals of all abilities to this beautiful facility. With that, thank you very much. Please stay safe, please be well, and have a great evening.
We do, oh, sorry, I think we do have one more question that just came in, Marco, at the end. Sorry, hold on a second. I'm just going to pull it up quickly. So are there any requirements of training for the staff at the rec center to ensure that it creates a welcoming experience and supports parasport opportunities?
That's an excellent question. And of course, as you heard, one of the things that we've done as part of our inclusive play initiative was to create educational resources for coaches and youth activity leaders. The other thing that we do with all of our inclusive play spaces, once we're done, we provide a resource manual for staff at the host facility to really understand what the different inclusive features are so that they can engage openly and transparently with users about how to use the space to its fullest potential. So there will be opportunities to ensure that all staff will work with Lorraine and her team to ensure that all staff are absolutely knowledgeable in how best to welcome individuals of all abilities to the site. So the short answer, yes, that is one consideration as we look to creating an immersive, inclusive environment.
Excellent. And then on an anonymous question came in, is this the first court like this in BC?
Another fantastic question. So it will be the first court in BC. We currently don't have plans for additional ones, but that may change in the future. We will be building 4 of these courts this year. We're very excited about that. And this is the only one that will be taking place in BC. It will be a showcase for the rest of the province, and you will continue to be leaders in the Capital Regional District for the work that you're doing around accessibility and inclusion.
Okay, one more question. How will the disability community be connected into the planning and the opening? Perhaps we can look at maybe, well, both Jumpstart and the Panorama Recreation Center and answer this one.
So I'll take it first. On behalf of Jumpstart, as we have done with all of our other recreational assets across the country, when we open them, we work with our regional manager in the local market. So in this case, Caitlin Sones, who's here joining us this evening, Jennifer, who's on the call facilitating the questions, myself, and many of our other staff will engage with the partners we work with throughout the province, and in particular in the Greater Victoria area, to make them aware of the opening dates. And we will, as I mentioned, there is an opening celebration that Jumpstart hosts on behalf of the partner community. And we will be inviting as many organizations as we can safely. So that's the variable. We don't know what that will look like down the road, but we will invite as many organizations as we can safely to partake in the opening event.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's Melanie that I can speak to that one. So we are still in the beginning phases of what the programming and the actual use of the courts will look like. The initial phase is really focused on the logistics and the approvals and getting things moving forward. So we will now be moving into that. We'll be looking at connecting in with some partner organizations, and we have some regional connections through our other municipal partners, other rec centers, and particularly we'll be looking at some parasport groups. We've connected in with One Ability to have some initial conversations around planning. We've also connected in with Pisces They've got some adapted sport, and they also have a very cool new trailer full of wheelchairs that can be used for wheelchair basketball. So we've had some initial conversations with them about some collaborations as well. And we welcome some of those conversations to figure out more about what that will look like, to ensure we have multiple different groups and different abilities using the court once it opens.
Excellent. Okay, I think that flurry of questions has ended. So I think this would conclude our evening. Marco, you did a lovely wrap up, so I won't ask you to wrap up again, but just want to thank everyone for joining us again. And yes, thank you so much and have a wonderful evening.